Here's a new weekly outlook for this week. We're going to start off with the fundamentals as always, and then move on to the technical side. We're going to take a look at first the economic data of what we have so far. So starting off with the US, we have a lot of mixed signals. About 2 weeks ago, we had employment data that came out. And as we scroll down, we start to see that the JOLTS job openings came out a lot lower than what we were forecasting and even the previous. So it starts to tell you that the labor market is starting to weaken a little bit or soften a little bit. And then continue down onto Wednesday, you had the ADP non-farm. We start to get a little bit of mixed data coming out here, where we're expecting a massive drop, but then we ended up getting a big push instead. And then continue down onto Thursday, you have the unemployment claims. This comes out every week. We had an increase of people filing for unemployment claims for the first time that week. And then if we look at last week's data, it's going to be, pretty much something similar as well, where the weekly unemployment claims, they started to drop a little bit. So you're getting some of the mixed signals there too. And then on Friday, you had NFP coming out where you had the numbers decreasing here, and then also the unemployment rate coming down just by 0.1%. So after that, taking a look at what happened last week, we had a lot of speeches coming out from Trump, and then also Fed Chair Powell testifying. But the more important thing was the inflation data, where we start to see that inflation overall is starting to increase. And that was one of the fears that the Fed had, especially with the tariff news and the tariff anticipations from Trump. So you have that from CPI. PPI is also starting to increase, which is the producer's price index, inflation on the producer side. And then unemployment claims dropping down just a little bit compared to what we were forecasting. So not really completely off, but you're pretty much in the same exact range there as well. And then when you're looking at GBP overall, we start to see about 2 weeks ago where we had the Bank of England also dropping down their interest rates by 25 basis points. So this week is going to be a bit more interesting. So we start off quite easy. And then tomorrow we have the Canadian and US bank holidays. But in Asian session, things start to pick up a bit more, where you have interest rates coming out from Australia. Then you have the claimant count change, so employment data coming out from the UK. Then you continue down where you have CPI data coming out from Canada in the US session on Tuesday. Keep scrolling down and you have President Trump speaking. Some more interest rates coming out, employment data coming out from Australia, the FOMC meeting minutes also coming out, unemployment claims, and then on Friday is the more important day where you have PMI data coming out. So it's going to be a little bit slower start than the last few weeks, but after that things start to pick up a lot more. Now moving on to the more macro fundamentals, what we have is of course like the trade war news that's going on. So the German chancellor says that the EU is strong enough to counter any US tariff threats, but he hopes for a negotiated agreement. And this is coming right before the German elections this month. And as we continue down here, the more important thing also when it comes to Germany in general, data points or macro fundamentals or anything like that, Germany accounts for 24.3% of EU's economy, followed by France at 16.4% and then Italy at 12.4%. So that's why it's very important to pay attention to whatever's happening with Germany, their elections, and also any other economic data points that are coming out from Germany, and understand how does that impact the overall EU, especially when you're trading euro pairs. So Trump said that he's going to impose 25% tariff on US steel and aluminum imports on March 12th, and then further tariffs on automobiles as soon as April. And when you continue down, that's pretty much what they continue to talk about, all these tariffs. And then when you go further down into this article, there is some news continued around the Russia-Ukraine war, and a lot of the countries, what you're going to see across these articles is that a lot of the countries, they are still supporting Ukraine, and they're still talking about how potentially US should show that they're continuing to support Ukraine as well. And there are discussions around Trump wanting to end the Russia-Ukraine war as soon as potentially Easter. And you're going to see some more of that into the rest of the articles that we're going to go through. And then there's some more information about the German election. So once again, if you're trading the euro, this is something that you want to watch out for too. The next thing is Japan asking to be exempted from Trump's reciprocal trade tariffs. So we already know that Japan is, starting to turn around their economy in the sense that they're increasing, those interest rates again. They're still combating some form of inflation as well, not so much in the most negative way, but we're starting to see that they're a lot more vulnerable when it comes to the different sectors and categories of their economy overall. So Japan is still trying to be on pretty much the good side of the US and asking to be exempted from these reciprocal tariffs that Donald Trump plans to adopt this year as the Asian nation works to minimize any potential fallout. So we'll see if that continues. Automobile aspect as well, but also the steel and aluminum products and everything like that. And then you have that continued US and China trade war happening here too, where China's top diplomat said the country will respond to any further unilateral US sanctions. And we know that there's pretty much this continued war that happens between the US and China, especially with Trump's administration, even, last time, where this time around he imposed 10% tariffs on China days into his second term. And then Beijing came back and they placed tariffs and sanctions on the US companies as well, and some US goods and exports and things like that. So we know from a trade war perspective, the trade war is still continuing. And now it's a matter of those reciprocal tariffs and how much of it, how long is it going to continue? And that obviously plays into inflation. That obviously plays into all these other aspects of the economy where consumers are starting to get hurt again, where inflation starts to increase, and the interest rates are going to maintain at those high levels to combat that inflation as well. The next thing that we have is EU seeks a military revival under pressure from Putin. So this is, again, Trump basically talking about where he wants to end this war. And on Monday, the EU leaders are going to meet in Paris to start drawing up their response after US officials spelled out in stark terms that there is a limit to how much the US is prepared to do. So this article is pretty much just talking about how there's continued support for Ukraine and how potentially there could be talks around, when can this war end? And it seems like the consensus is that probably end of the year is more of a more likely timeline compared to Easter, which is what Trump was saying. Let's continue down, and that's pretty much it for this article. And then ending off with inflation data, we know that it keeps increasing in the US, but then you also have that increasing in the UK as well, where it has hit its highest level in 10 months in January in the UK. And so this is going to play into the decisions of Bank of England, pretty much the same thing as the US Fed, where if inflation keeps increasing, the chances are that the central bank is going to maintain those high interest rates and not really cut any further. So that's pretty much it on the fundamental side. We're going to go ahead and move on to the technical side and start off with US30. You have the monthly candle, so we're kind of just sitting at these high levels, not really breaking past these, right around here. And we can call that the 45,000 mark flat. Those top wick rejections, that's pretty much where this candle is sitting at the moment. So if price can keep breaking these monthly highs, we know that we have that bullish volume to the upside to look for continued buy opportunities, which we're going to call 44,500. If this candle keeps pushing back down and flips back down, then the first area of target is going to be this bottom wick rejection. So that's what we're looking at. This is our entire range at, and we can adjust this as we drop down to lower time frames. So that 43,800. So this is pretty much to figure out the volume as we drop down to lower time frames. If there's continued bullish volume, then we know that we're looking for those buy opportunities to come back and tap into that wick. If price remains that, then we know that below that, then we know that we're looking for sell opportunities below that zone and continuation down. You come onto the weekly time frame, you've had a nice resistance right there, the last high, and then after that you had a retracement. Price came back down and held on to a support in the zone where we have seen a massive bullish push in the past as well. We came back, revisited the same exact levels, did not really close above this level here in the last few weeks, and that's kind of where we're sitting at right now too. So when the new weekly candle starts forming in a couple of hours, we want to see if we're going to have that continued bullish momentum to the upside, or if we're going to flip back down and continue back down. So if you're looking for scalping opportunities, you're going to start mapping up your levels when you drop down to the daily time frame and lower. So when I come here, I see that the last daily candle closed bearish right above that level. If I want to see any buy opportunities, this is going to be the limitation of my trade. So I need price to push back into this level first and then continue bullish from there. That is previous support and current resistance. If price breaks below this and can keep pushing down, then we have sells below that level of 44,500. But the first area of target is going to be somewhere down here. Potentially come in and fill these wicks and then push back, or are we just going to consolidate like we have been for the last couple of days, as you can see here? Come on to the 4-hour time frame. Once again, you start to see that consolidation a lot more clearly. Anytime we try to break above it, we just come back into that 45,000 mark, reject it, push back down into this area. And then we came back into that 44,700 and just held out that area as resistance before pushing back down and tapping into that 44,500 or 44,500. And so we're looking for those continued sell opportunities below that and then continuation down here back into this little consolidation. So this is going to be very important, especially when we're starting off slow and this week when it comes to economic data, and then things picking up closer to second half of the week for the US. Come on to GJ, same thing, start off with the monthly. So on a monthly time frame, we're sitting in this consolidation. We've had a bit of a gap down that happened, and the price pushing back up here. You got that 190.4, and then we want to see if price can continue that bullish momentum to the upside. You've got that top wick, so this is my current range for my trade. If price can break past that, then we have longer term swing trade opportunities to the upside, but as of right now, that's kind of the range that I'm sitting in. When it comes to the weekly time frame, you've had last week close right into that area. If price breaks below this, then you're looking for a continued sell, targeting these lows right around here. But if price, for example, has already tapped into this and is pushing back up bullish, we know that we might get a little bit of a bullish push to come back into that 193.200 or even 194 area. So if price can break past that 193.200 and continue its bullish momentum, then we're looking for buying opportunities to come back and tap into this resistance here. So this is your scalping opportunities right here, and then any swing trades are continuation after you take a trade here. You look for a continued buy to the upside, so that's where you're taking partials, looking for scale-ins, or if price flips back down, then you're looking for sells here, quick scalp, and then a continuation down. Come on to the daily time frame. And we start to see how same thing where price has tapped into this, pushes back up. We're not really breaking any major lows for the most part, but it does seem like we're starting to get a bit of a bearish pressure just to come back down. So another thing that you want to wait for is, can price come back and revisit into this area? Based off of the daily time frame, we are also sitting at this key level where you had all that consolidation, a little bit of a consolidation, retest into that area, and that's really when you get that massive bullish push up. And then same thing here where you only get rejections coming back down. So that's your scalp opportunity down here. Come on to the 4-hour, a ton of consolidation. So we do know that whenever price breaks out of that consolidation, there's going to be a ton of volume in one direction or another. Come over to UJ. So this is where we're starting to see that the yen was strengthening a bit more the last few months. And then here, what we're going to do is mark off these candle body highs, that last resistance, and that's the area that the current monthly candle is rejecting. That's that 152 level. If price can break below that and continue down, then we're looking for longer term sell opportunities to come back down here. And then if price just remains above that, then we're looking for buying opportunities to the upside. Come on to the weekly time frame. And you see that price held on to a nice support here last week, massive top wick rejection, came back down, rejected all those buyers and closing right around this area. So when this new weekly candle starts forming, you're looking for selling opportunities as price breaks the low here and continues pushing down. And for any buy opportunities, you want a strong support to be formed here on lower time frames, and then a continuation back up. Come on to the daily time frame, same thing, price just holding on to this area as nice strong support. Let's drop down to the 4-hour. You got a bullish close right here, and then you want the next candle to keep pushing the highs and continue to the upside. So this is going to be more like your no trade zone right here up until 152. And then if price can break below that, then you have those sell opportunities. For a scalp, target is going to be right here, and then you want to wait until price can bounce off of that and then push back up, or is it going to keep breaking below this? And for either of those, you need some fundamental support, and you also need the market open or close volume to kick in. Last thing that we're going to go over is gold. Gold just keeps pushing here, the next target potentially being the 3,000 mark. So you had 29.43, drop down to the weekly. So last week we closed with a massive push up, rejected that, no bottom wick whatsoever. So that tells us that we didn't even try going bearish at all last week. We dropped down to the daily time frame, and then here is where you can start marking up your potential support areas. So if price can continue breaking below, let's say 28.68, then you have longer term sell opportunities to come all the way back down, and you have that clean volume to the downside, potentially tapping into this area here. But if price kind of just hangs around here, then you have your quick scalp opportunities or even day trade opportunities. So here, for example, price had this previous support and it closed right at that level. If this next candle can keep breaking the lows, then you have a quick scalp or day trade opportunity to come back down into 28.68 or even 28.60 flat area around 28.60 or 28.50, right into the zone. And then after that, you want to wait to see if price is going to make a support and then push back up bullish for any continued buy opportunities, or are we going to see a bigger corrective move to come right back down? But this is your quick scalp opportunity for sells. For any buy opportunities, you want those 4-hour highs here to be broken and then continue to the upside. Target somewhere around 2,900 to around 2,910. That's pretty much it for this week. If you guys have any questions, as always, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at SharmaFX or just comment below. We also will be having our monthly bootcamp this upcoming weekend. There are only a few spots left, so make sure that you guys sign up through the SharmaFX.com website. We're going to go over different strategies of entries, exits, risk management, and how to grow your account.